back to Chicago Live. We want to get you an update. A missing teenage girl from New York was found last weekend in the Chicago suburb with two men who authorities say they were here in the country illegally. We're joined now by Alan Navanti from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
I want to start with, what are some of the specific charges that are facing the two men in this case?
I don't have the specific information on the charges, so I would defer to either the Rochester, New York Police Department or the U.S. Marshals that were responsible for recovering the child.
I want to know, what all do we know about this case, about how this girl originally went missing in New York?
From what we know, and law enforcement obviously will have more detail, is that somehow she met one of the individuals or had contact by one of the individuals and departed New York for the Chicago area, which is where she was recovered.
All right. And also, we do know that this was a 13-year-old girl who started in New York, ended up here in Chicago. What are some of the steps that authorities take to identify when a teenager goes missing?
Many times, one thing that in many cases where a child goes missing and we're trying to locate her, law enforcement is trying to locate her, what they will often do is look at if they have a device issued to them and use the device or their social media accounts to locate where they are, geolocate where the child may be. That there's great information. There are very good relationships between law enforcement and the social media accounts, the providers, as well as the ISPs and the phone company, in terms of helping to use the device to locate where the child may be.
Given the, I guess, cross-state nature of this particular incident, how does that work? Are local police departments kind of combining resources, since this obviously started in New York, ended up here in Chicago? So who takes the lead on this case? Or because maybe it's across multiple states, does it become a federal investigation? Can you walk us through that process?
Sure. When we receive the information of a missing child from the National Center, the first thing we do is reach out to both the family and the law enforcement agency. In this case, it was Rochester Police Department in New York. In this case, when law enforcement started developing indications that the child did leave and move interstate, or did leave the area of Rochester, they then reached out to the U.S. Marshals for their assistance. U.S. Marshals is one of the federal agencies that's very good at providing that assistance and locating, and because they have jurisdiction outside of the state and across the U.S., it really becomes a force multiplier for law enforcement to work both at the local and federal level. And then we support the law enforcement agency with whatever resources, such as poster distribution, helping to geolocate posters of the missing child to areas throughout the United States. So there are resources we can provide to supplement the work that they're doing.
And in cases like this, are there some warning signs that parents who are maybe watching this should be looking at? And what makes, I guess, some teenagers more of a target than others?
Excellent question. In these cases, and it's probably easier said than done, is really about communication between the parent and the child, knowing who their friends are, who they're contacting, if they're on social media, and sharing information, who they may be contacting with, may have in contact with. It really is important also that they know their social media account passwords. And if they gave the device to the child, that they also know access to that. As law enforcement, as I said earlier, if law enforcement needs to access those accounts or that device, they're going to need the permissions and the account information in order to find that account, and then also try to find the child. But it really is about just making sure the child understands. Children are very trusting. And so when they're contacted by another adult, they may believe that that adult has their best intentions, but in some cases that is definitely not the case.
We know that sometimes teenagers can kind of be in that phase where they're kind of breaking away from their parents and from what they were raised to do. What resources are available to help families who may think that their kids are being targeted by somebody online, but they're just not sure and they don't quite have that proof yet?
Sure. Well, obviously, law enforcement has resources, and at the National Center at ncmec.org, we have a number of resources in order to keep children safe online as well as safe out in, just safe from abduction. So, what I would ask your viewers to do is to come to our website and learn more about the resources that we have to help keep children safe. We also have a number of programs that are available to community groups and to educators to also keep children safe as well.
What are some of the dangers of, I guess, teenagers or kids in general being able to charge their own phones in their room overnight?
In some cases, having that device when they go to bed, having that device outside of the area that they are, it's really about setting boundaries for the parents to set boundaries for the child, because many times that device, obviously, if they're utilizing it, there are concerns about who they may be contacted by, but also just from their regular sleep habits, making sure that the device is not overused in terms of and really dominating their life and making sure that they're safe when they're on the device, but also giving time away from the device as well.
Now, I know no two cases are exactly the same. This girl originally was in New York and ended up here in Chicago, well over 500 miles away. Is that usually what happens in these type of abductions? Are the kids usually kind of taken far away, or are they usually maybe a little bit closer to home?
It really depends on the scenario, as you mentioned. Most cases, they're not traveling that far. Obviously, there's more information that needs to come out on this particular case. At the National Center, we see cases involving about 5% of the cases we have are family abductions, where you might more likely to see an adult family member or someone related to the child taking that child generally outside of the area where they originally went missing. In cases where there might be trafficking involved, you might see that as well. In other cases, infant abductions or other types of missing children, you may see them more likely within the vicinity of where they went missing.
And in this case, obviously, this girl was found here in the Chicago area. Can you, I guess, walk us through the process of getting her back to her family? Is that something that happens immediately, or is it something that kind of happens over time after a couple of boxes are checked?
Yeah, and in this case, generally, when law enforcement recovers the child, they generally, in most cases, I don't know the specifics in this one, but if they're outside and there's no family around, and in this case they're located 500 plus miles away, there's probably going to be social services involved to take custody of the child, and then there'll be reunification occurring. There are cases where here at the National Center, where that's some of the resources we have, is to help in reunification if those resources are necessary, or to supplement the work of law enforcement and the resources they have. But generally, there will be reunification back with the parent or family that's awaiting their return.
All right, we've been talking about protecting kids in this digital world, and we've been joined by Alan from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Thanks so much for your perspective and for these tips for families to hopefully never end up in this situation. Thanks again.